How you doing, folkses? Peoples?
Tell us, how are you doing?
Yes, tell us.
Tell us everything. Come on, we're waiting. We've been waiting for this all week.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, isn't this just an encounter with the mystery when you think about it?
It is.
Yes, we talk.
We're just sort of sitting
talk
here.
To each other.
Is box, is shiny, is talk.
Is talk
Who
box
knows?
shiny? Yeah.
Who knows?
Not me.
Oh, it's Karen. Hello. How you doing?
Hi, Karen. Hi, Melanie.
Melanie and Dawn.
Oh, here you guys all are. It's always that slight
Shannon,
question. Will
Kathy Kozak, how you doing? Yeah, I know. It's always like the first few seconds are like, ooh.
But we can entertain ourselves anyway.
Yes, we can.
Look at you guys.
Hi, darlings.
Hi.
Laurie and Carol and Alexa and Penny.
Paulina, Denise. Oh, all our people.
Amy and Casey. Oh, it's just great to have everybody here.
Yay.
Oh, look, we already have 100 peoples.
Gosh, I barely needed to be here. So you
but
guys
you come back soon, right?
I'll come back. You guys encounter the mystery. I'll go and encounter a mystery of my
Maybe
own.
we should just sit here and talk about things every week instead of just me talking. I feel weird when you leave.
No.
Tell us what you think.
All right, let's just get that off camera.
All right, yes, perhaps. It would be best to have these conversations backstage. Okay, so this is what happened this week, you guys. I was having one of those weird non-arguments that you have with people who don't ever argue because they never confess or admit that they're feeling angry or upset about anything. They just keep telling you everything's fine, but you feel the anger vibes coming at you, and you know there's snippiness and weirdness in the relationship, and you just don't know. And you try to, like, I always do that. I try to cope with that by doing something that in social science we called, well, one social science class I taught, we called it going to the balcony. So this is a very useful thing, actually. Tell you right now, if you're having an argument with someone who's not arguing, like they're clearly not happy, but they won't actually, you say, are you okay? And they say, yes, I'm fine. You can go to the balcony by saying, you know, I keep asking you if you're okay. And you keep saying you're fine, but when I look at your body language and I get the general vibe, it really looks like you're unhappy. So it's as if in the drama of the relationship, you've sort of stopped the action, gone up to the balcony and started talking like an observer and saying, this is what appears to be happening right now. So if in a business meeting, there'll be arguing. One way a leader can get out of that, and it works with friendships or whatever, is to say, okay, everybody, let's go to the balcony here. There's conflict and people are getting stuck. And I think despite what everyone's saying, Fred, you seem a little bit ashamed, and Jennifer, you seem frustrated. So let's talk about what's happening here. Going to the balcony or going meta, very useful social science tool. But it won't work if somebody keeps saying, no, absolutely not. I don't know what your problem is. I am not angry. I'm never angry. I am never angry. We've talked about this before. So I was just puzzled over what to do in this relationship. It's been consistent, you know, over the last few years. And I was going to the drugstore to pick up some medication for someone else who is not me. And the woman behind the cash register gave me my medication, or the other person's medication. And she said to me, apropos of nothing, she said, you know, it's so hard to be in relationship with people who are angry, but they will never admit that they're angry. And I was just like, okay. I literally had not said a word to her. She just came out with it. She said, yeah, my nephew's wife, yeah, she was a real case. And we had, you know, I really, really love her. But then we got into this place where she was angry and she won't tell me why. And I just don't know what to do about it. So I just had to tell myself to keep loving her and go on and be as honest as I can myself. And I was like, this is so strange. This is so surreal. And I said, well, that sounds like you're handling your situation really well. You go. And she said, yeah, that's the only way to handle it. And then she looked at my check and or my credit card, and she goes, oh, and my name is Jamie Beck. She has the same last name I do. It was like, why is this happening? Why is she even telling me this? And it was just bleh. And the thing is, I went and sat in my car and I thought, if this had never happened before, I might actually just not pay any attention to it. But it has happened before, kind of a lot. And that's what I want to tell you about. You know how drug mules are people who get hired by drug cartels to hide like drugs in their luggage and then fly to different countries? They're called drug mules. I think that some people are mules for spiritual messages that are trying to get through to us from some other realm. Like, there was no physical way that this woman at the drugstore could have known what I was going through. There was no way, but something seemed to compel her to speak about exactly the issue that was bothering me. And I've had many, many experiences like this. Some of you may have heard the story. I've told it too often. Rose said, maybe she said, I've heard that a few, like dozen times, but it's still pretty cool. I was in California, bought a property there, and then it went into the worst drought in 500 years, and I freaked out. And one day I decided to turn on the news. I had never watched television in California. We'd been there like 6 months. I decided to watch the news. Karen was watching a football game. She said, we're going to switch to this channel because it's my favorite news. And I said, okay, well, I just want to watch the weather because I'm dying to have someone tell me that things are going to be okay with this drought. It's just the anxiety is killing me, drought anxiety. So we changed channels. And weirdly, the first thing we saw on the new channel was my face. Now, this is hard to relate to for a lot of people because if you're not a person who's ever been on TV, you're like, well, that's weird. Of course, strange things happen to you. But like, this was the only time in California that I was ever on the news. And they'd done this little story on me and how I'd moved to the area. And then at the end, they talked about how much I loved it. And then they said, the reporter said, Martha says she's really worried about the drought. And then she bumped or pitched or whatever they call it to the weatherman, Dave Hovde. And she said, Martha says she's super worried about the drought. And out of my television, the weatherman looks right into the camera and says, well, I probably shouldn't be giving advice to a life coach, but Martha, you should stop worrying about the drought. Total drug mule moment. That man was a spirit mule for me. Another story, this one not so frequently told, maybe a little more relatable. I was trying to figure out how to get through my PhD dissertation, and the head of my department was this ferociously intelligent guy. And he was also very hard on people. He was from another country. English was not his first language, and he spoke rich profanity. He spoke with so much profanity that it would like take the skin off your face. He didn't just tell you you'd done a bad job on a paper. He would tell you you were an effing idiot who'd done an MFing total essing job on this effing assignment. Like, he would go. At one time I was so scared of him, I actually asked him, I said, I need to know if you hate me or if this is just the way you teach. And he said, no, it's just the way I teach. So I was like, okay. But everybody was scared of him. And he was a hard nose. Nobody like, and so many people dropped out of my cohort because the program just, they couldn't make it work. And one of the scariest things was this dude who was in charge of the sociology department. Brilliant scholar. He published like 9 papers a week or something. So I was thinking that everybody said, you've just got to find a way to get past this dude. We'll call him Bob, which was not his name. You got to find a way to get past Bob. And I was like, nobody else is getting past Bob. And then I had an idea. What if I made Bob the head of my dissertation committee? What if I did that? Nobody ever asked Bob to be the head of their dissertation committee. Everyone stayed away from Bob. Now, by this time, I had finished all my classwork at Harvard, drink every time I say Harvard, and I was teaching part-time at another university in Utah. And I didn't know any of the faculty there. But one day I went to work, and it was after I was just considering making Bob the head of my dissertation committee. It was so like opposite what anyone would think that I thought, maybe there's something here, but I'm really scared. I got into an elevator on the ground floor of the social science building with about 4 people I had never seen before. And one of them said to me, "You're Martha Beck, right?" I said, "Yeah." He introduced himself and he said, "I was at the University of Wisconsin where I studied with Bob, who I believe runs your department." And I said, "Why, yes, he does." And this man says, apropos of nothing, "A lot of people are scared of Bob, but here's the thing. He's a good man, and he's going to get you through. He's going to make you a better scholar, and he's going to make sure you have a degree that you deserve and that you can use." And then he left the elevator, and I literally never saw him again. Spirit mule, he's bringing in messages from beyond. So, yeah, you guys, this actually happens. And here's how to make it happen more. Because it doesn't just happen to me, and it doesn't just happen when you're on TV. No, it happens when you're thinking strongly about an issue and you're actually asking something. What should I do? I need information. I need to understand. I need to be comforted. I need something that can't come from within myself. Now, be very careful, you guys, that this doesn't go over into desperation or a sense of victimization. I'm helpless. I need you to rescue me. That actually doesn't work. For some reason, the spirit mules disappear and everything pulls back. And the reason, I love what Oprah said about this. She says, the universe will not reward your desperation. It's like rewarding a dog for begging at the table or for getting hurt. It actually reinforces the idea that by being desperate, you will get rewards from the universe. That conditions you into desperation, and the universe doesn't want us to be desperate. It wants us to be happy and empowered. So to ask powerfully, without a sense of victimization or desperation, but to say, I know there's an answer, I need an answer, or just think hard. I don't even have to deliberately phrase it, but if I'm thinking hard about it, then the other step is pay attention. Look for the spirit mules. They can come in lots of ways. And I've had people tell me, I was trying to make a decision about who to get married to, and I went outside and I saw a cat, so for sure I know that I'm supposed to marry Phil or whatever. And that may be a little much. I like to be a little more on the nose with my spirit mules, but if that works for you, cool. The more you notice, I just wouldn't write it up as gospel truth and try to force your friends to do things about it. Just notice it. Notice if there are messages coming. And then they start to come from all over the place. When I was writing my first self-help book, and I wanted something. I may have told you this too. We spent so much time together. I frankly don't remember since I never hear what you say back. Anyway, I was thinking of something to call this book, especially I wanted a word for this point. I'm calling it your sense of truth in the book I'm writing now, but it's a kind of resonant reality inside you that helps you know what's a dream and what's real. It's a sense of truth. And I was thinking, what's a good metaphor for it? It never moves. It's clear. It's bright. Ooh, maybe I could call it your own North Star, because the North Star is the only star that we see in the Northern Hemisphere that doesn't move. It appears not to move around the sky. It's always headed due north. So I was thinking, that might be good. I could use the North Star. And my husband at the time was out driving our van, and he called me on his cell phone and said, something's weird in the van. The compass is broken. It's on north. It just stays on north no matter which way I turn. That isn't a big enough problem to really call anyone about. He just sort of decided, first of all, he noticed it, which he didn't need to do because he knew the way around. And secondly, he called me right then when I was thinking up this title and told me that the compass was stuck on north. And then he said, as soon as I thought, well, I wonder if that's a message, he said, oh, it just started working again. And it never, ever malfunctioned again, just that one time. So, and I got the message, spirit mules. So you have spirit mules around you, and they are telling you things. And if you keep your eyes open, It's not hard science, folks, but it starts to add up to something that is statistically very unlikely to be random chance. I can tell you that because I had Bob as my dissertation advisor and he made me learn statistics. So that's what I have to say about that. And I would love to take some questions and hear a little bit, or at least read a little bit about what you are thinking and how this is interfacing with you. Because there are things trying to help us. Everything is a conspiracy to try to help us wake up and learn to be happy. And spirit mules are a big part of it. So I'm going to grab Ro and ask her if she has it. I'm going to grab her. Get over here, spirit mule.
You're the mule.
That's the spirit mule ears.
How should we use them?
I think only when we're getting messages from, I'm getting messages from God now.
You're at the pharmacy.
Message from God. Okay, what's happening?
Well, we have questions.
Yes.
They're very interesting.
Ugh.
Karen asks, how do you recognize a spirit mule so you don't miss their message?
I like to do this. I don't rigidly believe that anything is sent from the divine, but I softly believe that everything is sent from the divine.
Softly,
So if someone says to me, if someone just happens to constantly connect with me at the same exact time on the clock, or if I happen to always look up at the clock on the date. I don't want to say when it is because now people are going to know.
It's her birthday next week.
My birthday is 11/29, the 29th of November. Oh, did I tell you this story? I was teaching this seminar and we were talking about these synchronicities. And we sent people off to talk about coincidence and synchronicity. And when they came back, everyone had to nominate someone to come up and talk about their experience. And this wonderful man came up and sat there for a long time. And then he started his story by saying, I was born on November 29th, 1962. And I said, so was I. We were born on the same day. Okay. He didn't have to say that. So is this a spirit mule? We're talking about coincidences. This happens. It's a weird coincidence. Hard science? No. I'm not going to convict anyone of a crime based on this kind of evidence. Soft belief? You bet. I'm going to believe that was sent from spirit mule every time. And if I'm wrong, it's not going to hurt anyone. Be careful you don't hurt anyone. That's a general rule. Any other questions?
Sure. Yona asks, do certain positions or settings help invite the messages in?
I just actually mentioned it, and it actually finishes the answer to the last question, which is, yeah, what you do, the attitude of asking and looking is what brings more in. And one social scientist, Kathy Davidson, says it's about noticing what you notice. So you go around the world going, today I'm going to notice what I notice. It sounds odd, but if I'm fixated by a certain book, which often happens to me, I'll get fixated on the cover of a book from a long way. I've seen books in bookstores that were a long way away, and I had to walk a block to get to them. And when I got there, that particular book that caught my eye has exactly the message I'm looking for. Spirit mule. And the weird thing is, I noticed that I noticed that cover and that I didn't notice any of the other covers. I noticed that I noticed what the woman in the drugstore said. I notice that I'm noticing the way the animals are acting in Africa, stuff like that. Just keep yourself completely alert and open, knowing that these coincidences happen, talking about them, thinking about them, writing about them, reading about them makes them more likely. And then you notice what you notice, and it just creates a virtuous cycle.
Love it.
Yeah.
I noticed that Kathy McKinley has asked, what if you're getting a lot of messages, but they are conflicting?
It's an interesting thing. This stuff is kind of if people play with Ouija boards a lot, you get all kinds of weird messages. Doesn't mean they're all worth listening to. In fact, and I'm not afraid of them either. I think that love is stronger than hate, and you're not going to invite demons in. But some things don't have that ring of truth. So anything that comes to you as an answer to a dilemma, test it against the truth in your body, in your heart, in your soul. So when that guy got into the elevator and said to me, Bob is going to be, he's going to, a good scholar and a good man, and he's going to get you through, I felt a corresponding warmth and peace in my own literal physical heart. It was like, the body will respond to something that it feels as true. The mind can be very easily confused, very, very easily confused. In ancient Rome, the priests used to make mechanical animals that worked on water pressure, so they appeared to move. And this was before electricity or anything. So they would use water pressure, and they would set up basically magic shows so that the people would come, and the priests would do these things with these metal horses or whatever that the people had looked at. And then the metal horse would move. And it was so weird for them, because the mechanics were so unknown, that everyone believed that the priests were magic. So I've really noticed that if people just see anything magical, we are also a culture that has disbelieved in mysticism and magic. And so if we see anything we can't explain, we're likely to go, oh my God, it's an oracle. I believe everything this person ever said because he psychically guessed my birthday or something. Someone can be right. Someone can sort of work on these channels. I really believe we do have things like the ability to communicate with each other energetically. But it doesn't mean we're always sending each other the truth. It just means that energy is real. The truth is known by the feeling in the heart. The body, the heart, the mind, and the spirit all have to say yes. And the mind comes last. If the heart, the spirit, and the body are all relaxing into the truth, the mind just has to do the math to figure out what it hasn't been seeing. Comes late to the party every time.
So there's a lot of questions about not trusting when these things come, or the longing for it, maybe shutting it down and fear of that, and a cycle there. And I know you've already spoken to that, but that's where
it's really important. And what I would do is, there's a step between throwing your life into these things and totally disbelieving them. And for me, that step is writing. And this is why I wrote and wrote and wrote as spiritual practice for a long time. It's why we created Write into Light, which is a program of using writing to change your life, and life to change your writing. But as I write down the things that happened, like when I was pregnant with Adam, they were just constant, and I didn't know what to believe. I mean, I really was having psychic experiences, but my life was falling apart at the same time. I was very confused. I was a very confused young woman. Yeah. But what I did was that every single day I just wrote endlessly everything that happened. So it was kept in a concrete form, and then I could check it to see what happened, to see, when I ran that program in my life, did it work? Like I started to believe in miracles, so I could heal my son's Down syndrome by believing it strongly enough. I really tried that, you guys. But my heart never said yes. My mind wanted it a lot, but my heart, my body, and my soul never said yes. When I said to myself, he's got Down syndrome, accidents happen, it's meaningless, we're all going to die, that didn't work either. I couldn't find contentment. I couldn't find peace. And then what actually worked, looking at all my notebooks of all these crazy spirit mule experiences happening, what worked was, on certain days, I decided to believe that there were two levels of existence, and there was a physical me and a spiritual me. And there was a physical Adam and a spiritual Adam, my son. And that the spiritual Adam did not have Down syndrome, but the physical one did. But they were an interface. Like, his body is an interface between his soul and my experience, my apprehension. When I found that, and I started, it would start cropping up in my diaries and stuff, I would always notice that that's when the messages would start, yes, 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 yes. I'd get all these confirmations, very quickly. Like something was jumping up and down and trying to get my attention. And because I'd been writing, my head wasn't spinning when I went back. I wasn't in this intense grief and need. And I could just take a deep breath and say, all right, going back in from a calm place, what actually worked out here? What proved true in every way, the physical as well as the spiritual? And so that's what I would do, is keep a journal, keep a bujo, like Ro does, and write down these experiences, have a little category for them, and then say if anything happened to either validate them or disconfirm them, show you they were virtuous or silly.
And I think, just to underline the point that you made, which I think is a really crucial test if you're trying to, is just that, does this feel like my brain? Because the brain can guide you towards those things, like I'm choosing to believe that, but it talks a lot. It's not a feeling state. There's all those sorts of things where, is this real? Isn't it real? Does it feel real? Not because can I concoct a story in which this makes sense?
Oh, you can.
Oh, I know I can.
You always can. Yeah, cults are built of that, and we don't want to go there.
Karen asked the brilliant question, can spirit mules act like tricksters? Which I just thought was fun.
Yeah, I think they very often do. But here's the thing. As you bring that up, I think about the drug mules, the spirit mules in my life.
It's me.
No, it isn't. It's so funny that I went to the drugstore. I think that's why I thought it was a spirit mule. Anyway.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
Thank you to everyone who's making mule noises in the comments. I really appreciate that.
Very, very lovely.
Yes.
We really appreciate it.
Please, everyone do that now.
So when I think about the trickster spirit mules, the ones...
Sorry, it's just the things you never hear.
These are people, they're actually more in spirit than they are in, like, human thought. The ones who've really rocked my world are Adam, Byron Katie, the spiritual teacher, and other people who are deeply, deeply like masters of spirituality. And they are hilarious. And they will give you puns, and they will give you jokes, and they will give you dreams that will make you laugh. And they don't take any of this seriously. And they love to peek out and show their faces and go, there's something going on behind the curtain here. And it's not just it's the reverse of the great and powerful Oz that you think is there, and it's really just a little bald man. You think it's just a little bald man like Adam. Actually, it's a great and powerful wizard. He is pretty much losing his hair.
This is what they do. They go, ooh, like a little neighbor over the fence.
Yeah.
Like they're hanging out your clothes, and someone goes, ooh, hello.
I exist. I'm real.
It's me.
Like,
how you doing, Pam?
Yeah, how you doing? And like one time I was on an airplane and I was having a really tough time, but I'd been really struggling to help a client, and someone wrote on a napkin and pushed through, the two arm rests, pushed a napkin through, and on it, this old man had written, "Thank you for trying to help heal one of God's suffering children." And I looked back at him and I was like, and he just went, ha, ha, ha.
Wow, I don't know that one.
I'd never told it. I only just remembered it. Stuff happens, you guys. So much stuff I forget.
Should we do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more. That's fun.
Oh, gotta get my mule.
Gotta get your mule game
going.
They move independently.
Oh, prehensile ears. All right, Trisha says, how do you discern between a no message and a challenge that we get to overcome?
A message that says no, not this.
No message.
It's the difference between falling in love and having someone try to seduce you when you don't like them. When the spiritual message is no, nothing will want to go toward it. You'll actually find yourself pulling back, except for the mind might be saying, but the money's good, but whatever it is. You'll have a mental response that says, I should go forward. But everything that is animal and that is spirit is going, no! And on the other hand, when something happens that is a powerful yes, it may make no sense at all, but the power with which it drives you forward. I was just writing in my book about getting to Phoenix when I moved there and not knowing anyone. And I'd gone to a library to this meeting, and I knew there was a woman there who knew someone I knew. And I tried to find her, but I couldn't. And I left the building because I had to pee. And something physically pushed me back into the building. And it was like, and I was like, no, I have to drive home and pee. And it was like, you will meet this woman. And the desire and the physical force, it was like, wham! And she became my like best friend in Phoenix.
I really think that it's important to note here that the spiritual self doesn't understand about bladders. Like
That's
that
true.
higher self doesn't
because
know
I was
that
arguing
aspect
with it.
of the human
I think
experience
so.
is
Yes.
that I want to pee does
My
not
spirit
come
mule
through.
didn't care. Or maybe the spirit mule was like, every place is a place to pee. I'm a mule.
I think that's what it is. I think we've really gotten to the bottom of things here.
So to speak.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah, sorry,
We've gotten
guys.
to the bottom of the spirit mule problem.
The problem bottom
The
of
spirit mule solution bottom.
It's so fun to me that like earlier today we were talking and you said, you know, it's like a drug mule, but a spirit mule. Oh, spirit mule, let's talk about this on the gathering room. And now all these people are in the comments writing about spirit mules. Like it's a thing.
It's a thing, right? Oh, you guys, maybe you could go on my Facebook page and like if you've had a spirit mule experience, maybe if we talk about, since we talked about it, you'll have more.
Do it in the comments. People already are.
Oh yeah,
about
okay.
this a lot.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we'll do something with them at some point.
Oh no, don't.
Oh
don't.
God. I'll tell you what we'll do with them. We'll read them, appreciate them, and forget them. No,
There you go.
but
We
I will
won't-
try.
We'll hold them in our heart forever.
I'll try to do more than that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's fun to share and read
It's
each
so
other's
fun.
drug mule, spirit mule posts. God, the Department of Homeland Security is going to tag me so hard on this. We love you. You are spirit mules. We are all spirit mules for each other. Good night. And
And yeah, until next time.